US President Trump has been threatening to impose sanctions and tariffs on those countries which are buying Russia's oil. He has already imposed additional 25% tariff on Indian goods from India. Do you see this development as another reason why Vladimir Putin is trying to pretend to be more willing to reach a deal?
Well, I think he's hoping to use the imposition of the secondary tariffs on India to Russia's advantage. And I think he would try and do it in this way. The Indians have already said publicly they're going to continue their purchases of Russian oil and gas. So if that holds, then Russia will suffer no pain. It will be India that suffers the pain. So I could see Putin asking Trump to eliminate that secondary tariff against India, to say, look, they're not part of this. They shouldn't be disadvantaged. And if Trump says no, then the Indians are going to be even more outraged than they are now and grow closer to the Russians. It's also the case that the Chinese, who buy significantly greater oil and gas amounts from Russia than India, have not yet been hit with secondary tariffs, which outrages the Indians even more. So this is a case where competing strategic objectives may be at odds with one another, and Trump has put himself in this situation without thinking about it. But I would worry that Putin could outmaneuver Trump and actually work this to his advantage.
From your perspective, what are the chances that these negotiations could collapse in the near time?
Well, I think it's in Russia's advantage now, if indeed it was Putin who asked for the meeting, to string them out a while. If they could force Zelensky into the position of being the one who gave a thumbs down on negotiation, to make it look like he was the one who was against peace, who was obstructing Trump's efforts, they would do it as soon as they could. But after a while, as these things go on, with Trump's attention span being what it is, he may well turn to something else. So I don't think it's in Russia's interest in the near term to see these talks end quickly. The more they drag on, particularly with a ceasefire that freezes the front lines in their current form, I think it's something that on net it helps the Russians.
From your perspective, if such negotiations collapse, will President Trump be able to force Putin to renew these negotiations? Does Trump have enough leverage over Vladimir Putin right now? Because there have been lots of discussions that Trump doesn't have enough leverage to force Putin to sit at the negotiating table to reach appropriate deal, because he has some problems with imposing tariffs on China and other countries.
Well, I think that's a big question. China is the hardest question, but I believe the statistics show that Turkey, a NATO ally, is the third biggest purchaser of Russian oil and gas. And in part, these countries are going to say, look, what we're doing is not illegal under your own sanctions. The sanctions say the U.S. and EU will not import Russia oil or gas, but others may buy oil in this case as long as they keep it below the $60 per barrel price cap. And India in particular said, that's all we're doing. We're going to buy oil cheaply, and your own sanctions permit this. So I think Trump's ability to force Putin back to the table is limited unless Trump were to say unequivocally, I'm going to continue as far as the eye can see U.S. military assistance, weapons, ammunition, and military intelligence in particular, or even increase it. That would be the kind of pressure that would be felt by the Russian forces on the battlefront that could make a difference with Russia. We don't have any indication at this point, though, that that's what Trump would do.
You just mentioned about the security assistance for Ukraine. What is your take on this deal between US and NATO to provide Ukraine with weapons in exchange to European money?
Well, I think it's important. I think Ukraine can use the Patriots, and Trump can say, see, I'm making money off of it, which he cares to be able to say more than almost anything else. But it doesn't, that decision alone, even though it was the correct decision, doesn't tell you anything about the future supply of military assistance. I think there's overwhelming support in Congress to continue doing it, but to be effective for Ukraine and maybe also to put more pressure on Putin, Trump has to be explicit about it, which he has not yet done.
Thank you, Ambassador Bolton, for your time and for your support for Ukraine, and glory to Ukraine.
Well, thanks again for having me.